Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery.
All right, so today we're going deep on human nature.
Ooh, sounds intense.
It is. We're diving into Robert Greene's concise laws of human nature.
One of my favorites.
It really feels like he's taken all that amazing work on power and seduction and strategy and boiled it down to how we tick, just in our everyday lives.
Absolutely. And I think what makes Greene so good is that he's obsessed with patterns.
Yeah.
Right? He's trying to decode why people do what they do. And this book is like his, masterclass in understanding.
Totally, yeah.
Like the invisible forces driving us all.
Yes, and maybe even how to use that knowledge to our advantage sometimes.
Right.
The first law that really grabbed me was the law of irrationality.
Oh.
I mean, he just comes right out and says we're way more irrational than we like to think. We're often chasing pleasure without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Have you ever found yourself doom scrolling on social media?
Oh, yeah.
Even though, it's a total waste of time. Greene would say that's the pleasure principle in action.
It's funny. He breaks it down even further, though.
Oh, really?
Into low-grade irrationality.
Low grade.
Yeah, think of it as like the everyday biases that we all have humming away beneath the surface.
Oh, okay.
Just kind of warping our thinking in these subtle ways like confirmation bias.
Okay.
We tend to seek out information that confirms what we already believe, right?
True.
Have you ever noticed that yourself? Like you're,
Like gravitating towards the news sources that just reinforce what I already think.
Exactly. Greene would argue that's confirmation bias at play.
It's so true. It's like we're all building these echo chambers around ourselves without even realizing it.
Yeah.
So how do we break free from that?
Well,
if we're all, swimming in this sea of low-grade irrationality, how can we even spot it, let alone rise above it?
Greene would say the first step is awareness, right?
Okay.
Just recognizing that we all have these biases is crucial. And from there, we can start to question our assumptions.
Yeah.
Actively seek out diverse viewpoints.
Right.
Really, consciously challenging our own beliefs.
Right.
Being open to the possibility that we might be wrong.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But he doesn't stop there. He also talks about high-grade irrationality.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where things get really interesting.
This is where it gets juicy.
These are those moments when, emotions run high. We make decisions that we totally regret later.
Yep.
Think about a time when you got caught up in, a heated argument.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe with a family member or a coworker.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly you're not thinking clearly.
Right.
And things just escalate so quickly.
Absolutely. It's like our inflaming factors, as Greene calls them.
Inflaming factors.
Yeah, they get triggered.
Oh.
It's like someone just poured gasoline on a smoldering fire.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The group effect can be a big one here, too.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed how people act differently in a crowd?
For sure.
Like at a sporting event or a protest?
Yeah.
It's like suddenly individual rationality just goes out the window.
Yeah.
Group emotions take over.
So if we know these inflaming factors exist, right? We know that we're susceptible to them. What can we do? Is there any hope for staying rational in those heated moments?
There is, but it takes conscious effort. Greene actually outlines 3 steps to cultivating rationality.
Okay, lay on me.
First, self-awareness, which we've already talked about.
Right.
Understanding our own emotional triggers is huge.
Yeah.
Like what sets you off? What are your buttons? Once you know your triggers, then you can start to manage them, right?
That sounds like a lifetime's work, but I guess it's like anything else, the more we practice, the better we get.
Absolutely.
What are the other 2 steps?
So the second one is strengthening our rational minds.
Right.
This involves actively challenging our irrational thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah.
It's like building mental muscle.
Interesting.
And then the third step is understanding the context of situations. So is there something about the environment or the people involved that might be contributing to irrational behavior?
Okay.
By recognizing those external factors, we can start to see things more objectively.
Okay, let's unpack another interesting concept from this section of the book.
Okay.
Greene's take on narcissism. We usually think of narcissism as a bad thing, right?
Right.
But he suggests there's actually a spectrum, and even something called healthy narcissism.
It's not as black and white as we often think.
So what's that all about?
Well, Greene argues that even functional narcissism, right, which is like that moderate self-absorption many of us experience, it can actually hold us back from deeper connections and meaningful work.
Interesting.
We become so focused on ourselves that we miss opportunities to truly connect with others and contribute to something larger.
So what's the key to moving from that kind of like self-centeredness to healthy narcissism?
Well,
is it as simple as just deciding to be less selfish?
it's more nuanced than that. Greene would say that empathy is the bridge.
Empathy.
Yeah. It's about shifting our focus outward, genuinely trying to understand the experiences and perspectives of others. Have you ever noticed how good it feels to truly connect with someone?
Totally.
To listen deeply and understand their point of view?
Yeah.
That's the power of empathy.
Yeah.
Right? It expands our world. It helps us connect with something beyond our own ego.
I imagine that can be incredibly liberating. To step outside our own heads and connect with something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a much more fulfilling way to live.
Yeah, and Greene doesn't sugarcoat it. He says, cultivating empathy takes conscious effort and practice.
Right.
It's not about becoming a doormat or letting people walk all over you.
For sure.
It's about finding that delicate balance between respecting ourselves and valuing the perspectives of others.
Okay.
It's a lifelong journey, but the rewards are well worth the effort.
All right, let's shift gears now and dive into another one of Greene's laws that I found particularly fascinating.
Okay.
The law of compulsive behavior. This one is all about character and how the patterns from our past, experiences tend to just play out again and again.
It's like he's saying our character is our destiny, right? Shaped by these deep-seated patterns. We often don't even realize are running the show.
Yeah.
But what's so insightful is that Greene urges us not to be fooled by appearances.
Oh, really?
He says true character reveals itself through actions, not words.
Okay.
And because people rarely change their fundamental behaviors, we can learn a lot by observing those actions over time.
Yeah.
So like someone who constantly overpromises and underdelivers, that pattern speaks volumes about their character, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's like that friend who's always late no matter how important the occasion is.
Right.
You start to realize it's not just a quirk.
Exactly.
It's a deep-seated pattern that impacts all areas of their life.
Yeah, and Greene would say that's a clue to their character.
Oh, for sure.
And probably not one you want to ignore.
Okay, so Greene also makes this distinction between strong and weak character. Strong character is about resilience. Adaptability, the ability to bend without breaking in the face of challenges.
Think of it like bamboo.
Okay.
It can withstand the fiercest winds because it's flexible.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So if strong character is about, flexibility and resilience, what does weak character look like?
Well, he outlines several what he calls toxic character types.
Okay.
Like the denier, the relentless rebel, and the personalizer.
Okay.
The denier just refuses to acknowledge reality even when the evidence is staring them in the face.
Oh, wow.
The relentless rebel opposes authority just for the sake of it, even when it's totally counterproductive. And the personalizer takes everything personally.
Yeah.
Seeing themselves as the victim in every situation.
I've definitely met those people.
Have you ever encountered anyone like this in your own life?
Oh, absolutely. I think we all have.
Yeah.
Whether it's a coworker or family member or even a friend.
Right. And once you start to see these patterns, that's like a light bulb goes off. Suddenly their behavior makes so much more sense.
But Greene doesn't let us off the hook either.
No, he doesn't.
He reminds us that we all have both strong and weak qualities.
We do.
None of us are immune to these patterns.
The real challenge is becoming aware of our own tendencies.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which of these toxic character traits do you think you might exhibit?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
And more importantly, what steps can you take to cultivate stronger, more resilient character traits in yourself?
That's a powerful question.
It is.
It's so easy to focus on other people's flaws.
Right.
But Greene's challenging us to turn that lens inward.
Yeah. Look in the mirror. Okay, let's shift gears now and explore the law of generational myopia.
Okay.
This is one of the most, thought-provoking ideas in the book.
It really gets right to the heart of how we see the world.
Yeah.
Greene argues that every generation is essentially blind to the forces that are shaping its thinking. It's like we're all wearing these invisible glasses that distort our perception of reality.
And because we can't see these distortions, we just assume our worldview is objective and true.
So if we're all trapped in these, generational bubbles, how can we ever hope to understand each other?
It's tough.
It seems like we're destined to clash with those who see the world through a different lens.
Well, Greene's concept of the generational mindset is key here.
Okay.
He argues that each generation inherits a set of values, beliefs, and experiences that profoundly shape its worldview.
Right?
Think about the values and beliefs you inherited from your parents' generation. Which ones have you embraced? Which ones have you rejected?
Right.
And how has that shaped your own unique perspective?
That's such a great point. I'm already thinking about how my parents' experiences growing up during a time of like economic hardship really shaped their views on work ethic and financial security. Those experiences are woven into their DNA.
Right.
And now they're part of my inheritance, for better or worse.
Exactly. And when you start to see the world through this lens, you realize that those generational differences aren't just arbitrary. They're rooted in real experiences and historical events.
So true.
But this generational blindness can also lead to conflict and misunderstanding.
Right.
Especially when we fail to recognize the validity of other perspectives.
Okay.
Think about a current event that's generating a lot of debate right now.
Yeah.
How might different generations view that event through their unique lenses?
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
It is.
That's like we're all speaking different languages, even though we're using the same words.
Yeah.
But this law isn't just about understanding the past or explaining generational divides.
Right.
Greene also talks about how to leverage this knowledge of the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times.
He does.
He suggests that by understanding the forces shaping your generation's thinking, you can actually tap into its frustrations and desires to create work that resonates deeply and shapes the cultural landscape.
It's like riding a wave.
Okay.
If you can anticipate its direction and momentum.
Right. You can harness its power to achieve something truly remarkable.
Now let's turn to a topic that might feel a bit heavy, but stick with us.
Okay.
The law of death denial.
All right.
Greene argues that facing our mortality head-on can be incredibly liberating.
Interesting.
And even lead to a richer, more meaningful life.
It seems counterintuitive.
It does.
But I'm curious to hear more.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more challenging laws to grapple with.
Yeah.
But also one of the most profound.
For sure.
Greene is suggesting that by denying death, we actually create more anxiety and distort our relationship with time.
Yeah, we get so caught up in distractions and the pursuit of fleeting pleasures that we lose sight of what truly matters.
It's like we're running on a treadmill.
Yes.
Always striving for the next thing without ever really stopping to ask ourselves why.
Exactly.
But how do we break free from that cycle?
Well,
is it just about thinking about death more often?
It's more about becoming aware of how death denial is operating in our lives.
So how do we distract ourselves from the reality of our own mortality? What are the things we cling to for a sense of security or purpose?
Yeah.
Even if they're ultimately fleeting?
I'm thinking about how we often get caught up in comparing ourselves to others.
Yeah.
Striving for status and validation. It's like we're trying to build a legacy that will outlive us away to cheat death.
Exactly. And while there's nothing wrong with ambition or achievement, Greene suggests that true fulfillment comes from embracing the present moment and living in alignment with our values.
So true.
He offers several strategies for actively embracing our mortality. One that I find particularly intriguing is make the awareness visceral.
Make the awareness visceral. What does that even mean?
He's talking about deliberately confronting our mortality.
Oh, wow.
Whether it's through contemplating our own death, or engaging with art that explores themes of impermanence. This can be uncomfortable, even scary, but can also heighten our focus and clarity.
It's like a wake-up call, shaking us out of our complacency and forcing us to confront the preciousness of life.
It reminds me of that saying, life is too short to.
Fill in the blank.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And by embracing the reality of our own mortality, we can start to make choices that are more aligned with what truly matters to us.
That's powerful.
Another intriguing strategy Greene offers is open the mind to the sublime.
Okay, tell me more about that. What does he mean by this sublime?
He's referring to those experiences that evoke a sense of awe and wonder. Reminding us of the vastness and mystery of life. It could be standing beneath a starry sky. Contemplating a work of art that moves us deeply. Or even experiencing the profound interconnectedness of nature.
I like that.
By connecting with these experiences, we can transcend the mundane and tap into a deeper sense of purpose and meaning.
It sounds like he's encouraging us to find those moments that remind us we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. This is getting really deep. Okay, so we've explored some pretty heavy stuff so far.
We have.
Irrationality, compulsive behavior, generational blind spots, even death denial.
Big stuff.
But Greene doesn't stop there.
Nope.
He also delves into this fascinating and often messy world of relationships.
Ooh, relationships, everyone's favorite.
Right, with his law of love.
Okay.
And what's so insightful is that he argues our choices in love are often driven by these unconscious forces.
Oh, yeah.
You know, patterns linked down in our childhood that we're not even aware of.
So true.
He dives into the concept of, like, love blindness.
Love blindness.
That intoxicating stage where we just idealize our partner and completely overlook their flaws.
We've all been there.
It's like we fall in love with a fantasy we've projected onto them, not the actual person standing in front of us.
It's so true. I think we've all experienced that to some degree.
Totally.
Getting swept up in the romance and ignoring those red flags, waving right in our faces.
But Greene doesn't just describe the problem. He offers insights into why we fall into these traps.
Okay.
He talks about these love types.
Love types.
You know, patterns of behavior rooted in our early experiences that shape who we're attracted to and how we relate to them.
Right. Those patterns just keep repeating.
Yeah, and he gives some great examples.
Like what?
Like the rescuer.
A rescuer.
Who's drawn to people they perceive as weak and in need of saving. They get a sense of purpose from, like, fixing others.
Right.
But it often backfires.
Oh, yeah.
Because the rescued partner may not actually want to be saved.
Totally.
Or they resent the implication that they're incapable.
I know that type.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they're drawn to drama and chaos.
Yeah.
Always jumping in to save the day.
Right.
But never quite finding that fulfilling, balanced relationship they crave.
And then there's the dreamer, right?
The dreamer.
The one who projects their idealized vision of romantic love onto their partner.
Only to be crushed when reality doesn't live up to the fantasy.
They have a really hard time accepting their partner for who they truly are, flaws. And they're often chasing an elusive ideal that doesn't exist in the real world.
Yeah.
Which can lead to a lot of disappointment and heartbreak.
So Greene doesn't just focus on these negative patterns.
Right.
He also talks about how to cultivate, like, healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
What's the secret?
Yeah. How do we break free from these unconscious patterns and create relationships that are actually good for us?
Well, one key is understanding the dynamics of masculine and feminine energies in our relationships.
Okay, that's interesting. Tell me more about that.
And he's not talking about traditional gender roles here,
but
rather the interplay of these energies within each of us, regardless of our gender.
So he suggests that those who tend towards a more aggressive, assertive, masculine style might need to cultivate more patience, empathy, and receptivity.
Which are often associated with the feminine, while those who lean towards a more passive, accommodating feminine style might need to embrace more assertiveness, direct communication, and the ability to set boundaries.
It's about finding that balance within ourselves.
Totally.
And then seeking partners who complement and challenge us in healthy ways.
Not just replicating the same dysfunctional patterns from our past.
Right. Break the cycle.
Exactly. And Greene stresses that this takes self-awareness.
Yeah.
Understanding our own tendencies and the unconscious forces that might be driving our choices.
And a willingness to do the work.
For sure.
To build a strong foundation based on mutual respect and trust.
Okay, let's move on to another law that really resonated with me.
Okay.
The law of short-sightedness.
Short-sightedness.
I think we can all relate to this one to some degree.
Probably.
It's that human tendency to get so caught up in the moment that we fail to consider the long-term consequences of our actions.
We want what we want, and we want it now.
It's like we have this built-in bias towards immediate gratification.
But Greene argues that this short-sightedness often stems from a fear of the unknown.
That's interesting.
Change can feel scary.
Right.
So we cling to what's familiar, even if it's no longer serving us.
It's like staying in a dead-end job or a toxic relationship.
Right.
Because the thought of starting over is just too overwhelming.
It's easier to just stay put.
But Greene offers a powerful antidote to this short-sightedness.
Oh, does he? What is this?
He calls it developing a far-sighted perspective.
Far-sighted perspective. I like that.
It's about taking a step back from the heat of the moment.
Okay.
Calming those impulsive emotions and asking ourselves, what are the potential consequences of this decision?
Right.
How will this choice impact my life 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Thinking long term.
Exactly. So instead of just reacting to our immediate desires or fears, we're consciously choosing a path that aligns with our long-term goals and values. Love it.
It's like taking that 30,000-foot view of our lives.
The big picture.
Right, and making decisions from a place of wisdom, not just impulse.
It's not easy, but it's definitely a skill we can cultivate.
Totally.
Greene encourages us to practice patience, to resist those urges for instant gratification.
Right.
And to really think things through before making major decisions.
Good advice.
He also suggests seeking out mentors or advisors who can provide an objective perspective and help us see the bigger picture.
Now, I know we can't cover all 18 laws in depth, but there are a couple more I want to touch on before we wrap up.
Okay, let's do it.
One that really struck me was the law of conformity.
Conformity.
That powerful human urge to fit in and follow the crowd.
Oh, yeah. We're like wired for belonging.
It's like we're wired for belonging.
Right.
And sometimes that means sacrificing our individuality or critical thinking skills.
Greene's analysis of this is fascinating.
What does he say?
He talks about the social force.
Social force, okay. Yeah. That invisible energy that binds groups together.
Right.
And influences our thoughts, emotions, even our behaviors.
Interest.
We become more suggestible and less likely to question authority when we're part of a group.
Yeah. Have you ever found yourself agreeing with something you wouldn't normally support?
Oh, yeah.
Just because everyone else seemed to be on board?
All the time.
It's like that feeling of wanting to belong was so strong.
Totally.
That we override our own better judgment.
But Greene isn't saying we should become hermits and avoid all groups.
Right.
He's just urging us to be aware of this dynamic and to develop strategies for maintaining our independence and critical thinking skills, even when we're part of a group.
It's about finding that balance between belonging and authenticity.
He suggests asking ourselves, what are the values and goals of this group? Do they align with my own?
Right.
Am I being true to myself by conforming to their expectations?
And if the answer is no, it might be time to reevaluate our involvement in that group.
Okay, for our final deep dive into Greene's laws.
Yes, let's talk about the law of fickleness.
Fickleness.
This one focuses on leadership.
Okay.
And the often fickle nature of loyalty.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It's something that anyone in a position of leadership, whether it's at work, in their family, or even in their community, needs to understand.
Absolutely.
And what's so insightful here is that Greene dispels the myth that good leaders should strive to be liked or seen as equals.
Right.
He argues that true authority comes from that delicate balance of power, legitimacy, and fairness.
Interesting.
It's about commanding respect, not demanding popularity.
That's a really important distinction.
It's not about being everyone's best friend or trying to please everyone.
Right.
It's about setting clear boundaries, making tough decisions when necessary, and holding people accountable even when it's unpopular.
And Greene outlines several key elements of cultivating true authority. He talks about finding an authentic leadership style that aligns with your values and personality.
Okay.
He emphasizes the importance of focusing on the needs of the group, not just your own personal gain.
And he stresses the strategic use of rewards and punishments.
Yes.
Recognizing and incentivizing positive behavior while also addressing and correcting negative behavior in a fair and consistent way.
So it's not about being a tyrant or ruling with an iron fist.
Right.
It's about creating a culture of accountability and respect.
Yeah.
Where people feel motivated to do their best and contribute to the collective good.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Robert Greene's concise laws of human nature.
Wow, what a journey.
It's been an incredible journey. We've explored a lot of complex, often uncomfortable truths about ourselves and others.
For sure.
But ultimately, I think Greene's message is one of empowerment.
I think so too.
By understanding these laws, we can start to make more conscious choices, build stronger relationships, and navigate the challenges of human interaction with more skill and awareness.
Greene isn't offering quick fixes or easy answers.
Yay.
He's inviting us to embark on a lifelong journey of self-discovery and growth.
I love that.
He's reminding us that while human nature may be complex, it's not entirely unpredictable.
Yeah.
By studying its patterns, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and others.
Totally.
And ultimately use that knowledge to live more fulfilling and meaningful lives.
So as you go forth into the world armed with these insights, remember to keep questioning, keep observing, and keep exploring the endlessly fascinating depths of human nature.
A wild ride.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.